Hey friends, Gary here. Welcome. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to try to do bokeh photography or background blur photography using micro four thirds camera. As some of you guys might already know, micro four thirds have smaller sensor compared to full frame and APS-C cameras, and that means they won't be able to blur the background as much as the other camera formats. However, in today's video, I will show you how we can get the most bokeh out of our micro four thirds camera so that we can get comparable results. Anyway, welcome to my house, and as you can see right there, we have a beautiful Christmas tree. I'm so excited about that Christmas tree. That Christmas tree presents a nice opportunity for the best bokeh photography because those little lights and ornaments will turn into beautiful bokeh balls on the background that we all look forward to. And for the main subject of the day, we're going to do product photography, and we have Mr. Tony Stark right here, the Iron Man, posing as our model. I hope that you guys can follow along at home with your own Christmas tree and your own little subject, be it a small toy or maybe portrait of your family member or some other things laying around the house that you want to photograph with the Christmas tree in a beautiful bokeh style photography. Anyway, in terms of camera gear, I'll be using my micro four thirds camera today. This is the Panasonic Lumix GX850, a pretty basic micro four thirds camera with 16 megapixel sensor, and we have lots of different kinds of lenses right here. We have kit lens, we have lenses with large aperture, we have lenses with longer focal lengths and shorter focal lengths, all different kinds of lenses. We will compare the results of all the pictures taken using these different lenses so you can understand better how to get the most bokeh out of micro four thirds cameras and lenses. Anyway, for the first lens of the day, I'm going to use the kit lens of the GX850 right here. This is the 12 to 32 millimeter f3.5 to f5.6. I'm going to shoot at f5.6 first at some different kinds of focal lengths so you can get a better understanding of what the focal lengths do to the background blur, and then I will also shoot at the largest aperture. So let's begin at 12mm f5.6. This is aperture priority, everything else is automatic, so it's going to be quite a simple photo shoot. So 12mm, I'm going to get really close. The composition is going to be half body portrait of Mr. Tony Stark right here, so about there. Yeah, it's really wide. This is f5.6. I'm going to show a little bit of the Christmas tree. Right, that's the 12mm. I'm going to zoom a little bit to about 18mm. Still f5.6 and half body portrait. And all the way 32mm, I'm going to just step back a little bit, f5.6. Right. So right away, you can see that with the more telephoto focal length, you'll be able to achieve slightly more background blur compared to wider focal lengths. Now let's try the widest focal length but with the largest aperture. So 12mm f3.5. Will the larger aperture help with the bokeh? Alright, still half body portrait, like so. And as you can see, yeah, compared to the other 12mm at f5.6, yeah, you get slightly more bokeh. But compared to the f5.6 of the 32mm, I think I much prefer the result of the 32mm even though it's on smaller f5.6 aperture. Anyway, I switched to the Panasonic Lumix 20mm f1.7. Now it gets a little bit more interesting because even though the focal length isn't really telephoto, only 20mm, we have large aperture of f1.7. So let's try to shoot it at the largest f1.7 aperture. Similar composition as before, half body portrait, and right away, I'm quite pleased with the background blur, but we'll see. We will compare it later with a telephoto lens with smaller aperture. Anyway, we switch to the Olympus 45mm f1.8, an excellent small telephoto lens for micro four thirds. I'm going to set it to f1.8 aperture priority, similar composition as before. And even though I haven't taken the shot, I can already tell that this will produce the best bokeh result compared to the other lenses that we've already used. So yeah, let's step back a little bit because of the 45mm focal length, f1.8. Let's take the shot. Oh my god, the background blur is just amazing with this guy. Another interesting lens right here, we have the TTArtisan 50mm f1.2. Wow, very large aperture. This is the largest aperture lens for micro four thirds that I ever have. Let's see. We will compare it with longer telephoto lens later on with relatively large aperture but not f1.2. How will this lens stack up even though it's only 50mm? Anyway, setting is f1.2, aperture priority. I'm keeping everything else automatic. So yeah, let's try to get a similar composition like the 45mm before. Slowly manual focus the lens until I get the sharpest result, which is about there, I suppose. Oh my god, the background just gets so creamy and dreamy at the same time. Anyway, I switch to the Olympus 75mm f1.8. Now it gets really interesting because with the TTArtisan 50mm we have f1.2 aperture. With this guy it's f1.8 but it's longer. Which one will produce better bokeh? Let's take the shot and compare the result later. Alright, so I have to step back really far because this is such a long telephoto focal length. Anyway, this is the shot. Let's try to compose it. Right, focus on the head. Same composition hopefully. And yep, I think I got it. Right, last but not least is the Panasonic Lumix 100mm f2.8. Another interesting lens because this has the longest focal length, 100mm, even though it's only f2.8. We will again later compare between these heavy bokeh lenses, the Olympus 75, the TTArtisan 50, and the Panasonic Lumix 35 to 100mm f2.8. Which one produced the best bokeh in this scenario? Again, I'm keeping the composition very similar between each other. I'm trying to keep a similar crop to the Mr. Tony Stark right there so that the result will be comparable. Anyway, 100mm f2.8. Let's see what happens. I'm going to focus on Mr. Tony Stark and yeah, this is f2.8. We'll try to take the shot. Nice. One more. Anyway, for the sake of today's comparison, I will also try to take one more shot with the 35 to 100 at 100mm with a smaller aperture, f5.6, so we can compare later on which one is more important, the larger aperture or the longer focal length. Anyway, yeah, f5.6 aperture priority 100mm. Let's take the shot. Similar composition as before, trying to keep the crop the same as with the other lenses. Nice. Anyway, just for fun, I wanna throw in some cell phone pictures. Over here I have my phone. This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. I'm going to take two different kinds of pictures with this phone. First is just a regular picture but with the 3x zoom camera, and then the other one is going to be a portrait mode of this phone, again with the 3x zoom for that fake background blur kind of thingy, just for the sake of comparison. Alright, so first let's start with the normal 3x camera without the portrait mode. Let's see. I'm going to try to use the same composition compared to the other lenses, something like this. And then the portrait mode with the 3x lens, something like this. Anyway, now that I'm done taking pictures with all of these lenses, let's compare the results on one single frame so that you can compare the bokeh results of each lenses with different kinds of aperture values. And from my observation, we have two tight winners right here. It's between the TTArtisan 50mm f1.2 and the Olympus 75mm f1.8. it's very close in my opinion. The results look almost the same. The 75 definitely has an advantage when it comes to compression. It makes the Christmas tree appear larger on the frame. That's just the nature of the longer telephoto focal length. But comparing the size of the bokeh balls between the f1.2 of the TTArtisan and the f1.8 of the Olympus 75mm, I would say it's very similar. So yeah, if you are looking for a Micro Four Thirds lens with the most bokeh, then either of this guy will definitely suit you. So if you're tight on a budget and don't mind a manual focus lens, then the TTArtisan 50mm f1.2 will be your choice. The focal length is slightly easier, it's not as long, so it's a little bit more flexible, especially for portrait and product photography. But if you have the money, then I would really suggest to get the Olympus 75mm f1.8. I think it's slightly sharper, slightly more contrasty, and the longer telephoto focal length can help your image to pop even more. However, if you don't have a budget for a new lens, or if you prefer to just use what you already have, which I always advocate, and you just want to use your kit lens, don't worry, I have some tips for you to make the most out of your kit lens to create a nice bokeh background blur picture. So first thing that you want to do with your kit lens is try to zoom in as much as possible. Let's zoom in to our 12 to 32mm lens right here to 32mm. And then the key with bokeh is that you want to get your subject as close as you can with your camera, and you want to push the background as far as you can away from the camera. So the distance between the subject and the background, the further the distance is, the more background blur will it create. So yeah, let's try to move Mr. Tony Stark here as close as we can to the camera right here. So we created more distance compared to what we did earlier with the earlier photo shoot of the 12 to 32. And yeah, with more distance, I hope we can create more background blur. And now I'm at 32mm and the maximum aperture is f5.6. We're gonna try to get a picture of Mr. Tony Stark with the most background blur with just using the kit lens. So something like this. Yeah, if you don't mind cropping even closer to your subject, you'll get even more background blur out of this little kit lens. So I want to try to get a headshot of Mr. Tony Stark right here, and hopefully we can get more background blur that way. Right, something like this. Looks really cool in my opinion. So as you can see from the picture taken using the 12 to 32 at 32mm f5.6, but with Mr. Tony Stark being closer to the camera, you can see that we can get more background blur compared to the earlier compositions. However, it's still not going to match the background blur quality of the Olympus 75mm or the TTArtisan 50mm f1.2. But still, if you're on a budget and you just wanna get the most background blur out of your kit lens, this is the one thing that you can do. And that wraps up today's video. So that is all bokeh photography using Micro Four Thirds camera. Hopefully this has been inspiring, fun, entertaining, and informative. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along with today's video and come out with your own bokeh photography shots and have fun with it as well. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a discussion down below on the comments. What is your favorite lens to use for bokeh photography? The one that you choose for the smoothest, nicest, creamiest background blur, whether you are using Micro Four Thirds or other camera formats. Please, I want to know on the comment down below. Also, if you have any question, please comment down below as well. I will try my best to answer them. Also, don't forget to support my channel by liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to my channel down below. If you want to support my channel even further, consider using the affiliate links on the description below, buy my Simplifying Travel Photography ebook course, or use the Super Thanks button to make a small donation to my channel. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.